Ia ita ia ila taru te tau apu ai misi ai le o ta fia lo fa moni lo ta ai. Ai tau ana tu mai lo mota ita mele o le na la no taru tau apu ta lo fa lo ta ai ngal me tau na fai pe ta va ia tu lai fa le ton.
In 2008, Pualele Fui Paia Aua left Samoa for New Zealand to pick apples under the Recognized Seasonal Employer, or RSE program. To make the trip, he had to borrow money for the airfare.
Ilo u fato atu vai New Zealand. Na o ina na o lo ai le tele o tamau a inga fo ima mea ia o na fasise ilo tama fau ma se tia ilo tama fau ile awala le metau se le ni tatela tu mana o mafatau.
But Pualele returned to his village in Samoa with good savings. After some setbacks, he invested in a brick-making business.
Ia le lau se vali atu ilunga ile sfuru lua tangata whai ngaruenga. Ma whai ona matou whai ara ngaruenga ma whaatau atu isi nuutua oi o whale alili. Ia ai mese fo tau langa. E o lava le company le esi o whai no sa pala ia. Ila tō ngaruenga whai.
Migration has been a fact of life in the Pacific Islands for generations. The limited employment opportunities on many islands lead workers to seek opportunities in more developed countries. Indeed, across the world, migration stands high on the agenda of policymakers, as highlighted by the ILO Director General at the 2014 International Labour Conference in Geneva.
We all agree that it has the potential to contribute very considerably to growth and to development.
Short-term temporary migration, also known as circular migration, can involve people from many occupations, including seasonal workers, seafarers, teachers, and nurses, among others, who earn much-needed money for their families. They also gain valuable experience, and sometimes this includes formal training. Bringing these skills and experience back home helps their island countries in both the short and long term. Both Australia and New Zealand have introduced seasonal migration programs for their horticulture industries. Through close consultation with participating island countries, the programs provide benefits for both workers and employers by providing essential labor during critical harvesting seasons.
It's attractive to employers because they get the labour they need at the time they need it, and then when the need's gone, they have a workforce that is arranged to go home. When they get back home, they've got those skills to transfer into their own economies, and they can grow their own horticulture and other industries with the skills they learn here. So there's a win-win for everybody.
In Samoa, the men and women chosen to go to New Zealand for the seasonal worker program were first organised through a grassroots scheme in the village of Pautasi.
We have a selection committee, and it's made up of Matais from Pautasi. And we have a secretariat, and of course we go through this interview process, and we interview everybody.
The Pautasi model, where village structure and traditions are maintained even in New Zealand, has been a success. Very few workers were sent home early or returned without some savings.
O se malanga ya lua noa ma se pulenga. Lo fa malu ai malanga ni. Ta tonu fu tele ni si vai nga o le atu rai mai. Ai pita io le alu a lo ye le pui. Ma le fa malu ale no un. Te no wa man ya.
The program has also proven itself with New Zealand growers.
It's about the reliability, the productivity of those people, and the absolute confidence they have in that they will be there and doing the job at the premium time.
However, even in well-designed labour migration schemes, challenges arise in regulating the conduct of employers and labour hire companies. One important way of preventing breaches of workers' rights is the active involvement of all relevant stakeholders, including trade unions, employers, and government, in both the design and oversight of labour mobility programs. This type of continuing social dialogue is critical in addressing challenges which arise in the protection of migrant workers and in continuing to ensure that they fully benefit from their migration experience.
There was a really big focus on making it a gold standard scheme, and we were involved in its design to make sure that they were paid properly, that they had added value, things like literacy training and other skills development, that they were able to have advice on their rights. Some of those elements have been run down, to be honest, and we're concerned. We do know that there's a lot of overcrowding of housing, which landlords are charging much over market value rents to these workers and deducting their wages. We're concerned that any worker that speaks out doesn't get invited back the next year, and we're also concerned that there have been a number of labour hire companies now in this scheme that have gone under and not paid their workers. So we want to see the good elements restored. There are still lots of good elements, but we think it could be even better.
For the program to be truly successful, seasonal workers need to return to their island countries, not just with money, but with new skills and, where possible, training and qualifications.
Just about everybody who's been on the RSE scheme, at least here in Poutasi, have done something useful. I think if we were to look at the people, the characters and the personalities that have been involved in the scheme, there's definitely a noticeable change in their work ethic.
New Zealand has well-developed industry training organizations, or ITOs. Recent legislation has enabled seasonal workers, like those from Samoa, to take advantage of this training. New Zealand ITOs have also worked with island-based training programs to allow the islanders to continue their training when they return home.
But it's a very, very good business for these guys to take back home and actually help start and run their own operations back in their home countries. And that covers things like taxation and HR, personnel development, and also the ways and means and wherefore to actually operate a horticultural operation.
There is a huge gap in the Pacific in terms of vocational training on job, practical training. So it's actually setting up an alternative school system and training system for people that don't have access to it, and it can be located in villages. It's from grassroots up.
Temporary migration is not only a possibility for agricultural workers, but can also be an important opportunity for sectors such as the health and aged care sector. Salote Salambudo is a Fijian nurse in the intensive care unit of a Suva hospital. For 3 years, she worked abroad and was very positive about her experiences.
So my expectation there was to learn as much as I can, because my plan was to come back, not to stay for long.
Salote took the overseas job to fund her young children's education.
It was really hard to leave them, but then just because of what we have talked about with my husband for our family education, and I know it's hard, but then I had to go.
To take the job, Salote had to resign from the Ministry of Health, but she was re-employed as soon as she returned to Fiji. She now has new skills that she can apply in her job. The care sector is a potential area for expansion in both New Zealand and Australia. And there are already some workers with experience in this sector and related ones who could bring back important skills to their home countries.
After I came back, the only thing I was telling the nurses is it's good going abroad, get trained, get the skills, knowledge, and come back and show those here at home. Some of the things we don't do here, we do there, but I see that slowly it's coming to be installed here at the country.
Temporary migration to countries that have sound labour institutions can bring a number of important benefits to workers, their families, their communities, and their countries. Employers too benefit from the hardworking, committed migrants that they receive from the Pacific. Expanding opportunities into new occupations and sectors has the potential to benefit even more workers and also to achieve greater gender balance in labour mobility. Well-regulated temporary migration schemes can be a win-win for all those involved.
Whaena o whakingoinga i anga luenga kele kongo makoainga. Koe wharelinga ko kongo ma whale. Hata siai ma whaatau e fo i mara whaangota. Pe umai ana maua mai, o le tupere na whaawai mai le RSE, o le tupere na maua mai le RSE.